Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle Show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle Show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle Show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle Show. Yeah.
Hey everyone, before we begin this week's episode, we just have a quick message from this month's sponsor, Curio. Based on the fantasy novel by British author Neil Gaiman, American Gods is unlike anything else on television. Epic in scope, ambitiously cinematic in style, exhilarating and provocative, it has redefined fantasy drama. Coming off a sellout of the original American Gods NFT collection, Curio is dropping Motel America, the second series of NFTs that celebrates our favorite and never released American Gods. Collect the Motel America NFT collection now from American Gods by visiting oncurio.com. That's ONCURIO.com. Thank you and enjoy this week's show. Okay, Lin, welcome to the Matthew and Rizzle Show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And to get started, I'm really curious if you could kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your professional background, what you were doing before you founded OneOf, and then, we can dive right into all the good stuff you're doing with NFTs, music, on the Tezos blockchain with OneOf.
So I've been both, founders of technology companies, but also worked at major media company as well. I went to Carnegie Mellon during the first .com boom, ended up building my first company out of my dorm. It was a social network for teens that we eventually took public. It was a crazy experience in the .com era, learned a lot, and then spent, a lot of years over at major media companies like Alloy that own Gossip Girl, Vampire Diaries, as well as music companies like Amos Communications that own, hip hop radio stations such as Hot 97 in New York. Really decided to get back into the startup world, joined a mobile video startup based out of Canada that was actually doing mobile video social network. At the time, Instagram was just doing kind of a photo-based social network. Had a lot of success there. Grew the company to about 75 million users worldwide and took that company public. So had the chance to came back to New York about 5-6 years ago and met up with one of my mentor now and the prolific VC Bill Tai. So Bill is one of the earliest investors in the blockchain space, as well as other technology companies like Zoom. So we were talking about how to apply blockchain technology to music and entertainment, which is kind of a lot of my background in. Fast forward to about 2.5 years ago, Bill came to me and was like, Lin, you have to take a look at these blockchain cats. Right. So those were CryptoKitties. That was the first big use case for NFT. So I immediately start thinking through and start planning around this, how to apply NFT for music, which is very different than using NFT for basketball trading cards or using NFT for art. And here we are. It's the project now known as OneOf.
Dude, I'd love to hear more about, I'm looking at your website and it seems like you're leaning heavily into like audio NFTs. And I noticed you're on the Tezos blockchain and would be really interested to hear more about the project in general, but also like your decision, there's a lot of choices out here right now between like layer 1, layer 2. a lot of different blockchains. Tezos has been on fire lately. So yeah, man, interested in just hearing more about what you got going on and some of the decisions you made.
Yeah, so the evolution of the project was, initially certainly like every other project we were looking on developing on Ethereum, and I had the opportunity to speak to some of the people inside Dapper Labs, and one of them, I'm also a GP of a crypto fund of funds called Chainlink, and one of our underlying funds actually made some early investment in Dapper Labs. So I was really interested in their vision, and they flat out told me like, Ethereum's not going to be able to scale to support even what they needed, right? So at one point, CryptoKitties was running about 90% of all transactions on Ethereum. So they thought basically there was huge fluctuation in gas price when transaction volume were up, and people don't enjoy playing or trading when it was such a high gas fee. So we started looking at alternative solutions, and also over the last 2 years, we spoke to many music artists, and one thing was very clear, right? So the two things music artists really want. One is every one of them is environmentally, eco-conscious, but also, even going beyond that, right? They want to do whatever they can to get back to, protect the environment. And two is no artist wanted to sell goods and services only to their richest fans. So, as Ethereum kind of gas price for minting an NFT recently was, kind of as high as like kind of $75 to $150 was kind of the average, right? So it was as high as $500 at one point. So that's just crazy. That means artists have to price their NFTs for like $500-$600 at least, just to make a little bit of a margin. That really priced out of the hands of the average fans. Music is meant to be democratizing, and not to be kind of exclusive in the hands of the crypto whales, right? So we decided to really spend the time to build a project that is meant for not only the crypto community but also for the average fan. And Tezos, I was, Bill Tai was the one that also kind of introduced me to the Tezos founders, and we started talking through all these problems we were trying to solve in our project, and I realized Tezos is a low transactional cost chain, and it is one of the most energy efficient chain there is. An average transaction takes about 2 million times less energy to verify on the Tezos blockchain. It's, just because the difference between proof of work versus proof of stake. So Tezos had an immediate advantage. And also what I liked was two more things. One is Tezos is a proof of stake chain with the mainnet operating continuously for almost 3 years, right? So it's very different than, a lot of other big project built on proof of stake. A lot of it was kind of still very theoretical and in white paper stage, and mainnet didn't launch. A lot of the top project didn't even launch until this year. So we knew that it's a proof of stake chain that works, which is good. And the second thing is Tezos is uniquely the only blockchain that has a self-amending capability. It can upgrade the entire chain without a hard fork if the community reaches a 80% consensus. That is huge in the world of NFTs, right? Like, imagine you have a token and the blockchain, you have the token on hard forks, and now your super unique one-of-one token now becomes two, right? Like, which one is really the authentic version of that? So that's really interesting. And then also the self-amending capability also means Tezos can kind of look at the latest innovation in the blockchain world in general and incorporate some great ideas. Flow, the Dapper Lab guys took 3 years and built Flow, which is a great blockchain that's optimized for NFT use case. Sacrifice a lot of the other kind of traditional mainnet capabilities, but it's great for NFT, right? So there was about 3 or 4 really great new ideas that were introduced that doesn't exist on other blockchains. So the Tezos guys took a look and decided to upgrade the chain to incorporate some of these new ideas. So as of the upgrade last fall, incorporated a lot of great new innovations in NFT, as well as reduced the average transaction cost even further. So Tezos kind of, if it's a Marvel superhero, it will be Rogue, which is the superhero that can touch, the X-Men that can touch another superhero and absorb the other people's, superpowers. So we're excited to kind of build our project on top of kind of a self-amending blockchain.
Yeah, Tezos is really, again, like you said, it's been around for years and years, but especially within the last, I'd say, half year, in the NFT community in particular, it's really started to present itself as a very, very interesting alternative to Ethereum in particular. HEN, Hiset Nunc, Here and Now, however you want to describe that other NFT project, is definitely garnering a lot of interest. And I think OneOf is really at an interesting place opening up shop on Tezos. But I'm curious if we could pull back and describe for our viewers exactly what OneOf is. Maybe talk about the problem it wants to solve, talk about its offering, and how folks can interact with it.
Yeah, sure. OneOf is a green NFT marketplace project specifically built for the music vertical, right? So its aim is to kind of connect the music community, allowing artists to create and sell their NFTs directly to fans. So an artists are music artists, right? So and music is, like I said a little bit earlier, a little bit different than kind of basketball trading cards or digital visual art. I say music is kind of the most collaborative art form there is, right? So every piece of painting you see or digital painting you see, usually there is one rights holder. There's one creator behind that. Every piece of music you hear, it's always a collaboration, right? So there's the performer, singer that there is the writer, there's usually multiple writers, there's the producer, there is maybe the guy that laid down the drum beats, there's the engineer, there's and there's basically also kind of rights holder from the point of the record company, the publishers that all participate in kind of this creative work and make it happen. So it's very difficult to have kind of use the existing systems that's available on most other platforms, which is a single wallet and single rights holder, kind of assigning all rights to be able to sell something. So we basically try to solve that problem and design a system that can accommodate all rights holders and make sure all rights holders are kind of in agreement to sell this piece of work. And on the consumer side, we think the opportunity here. Music is so universal and music is so easily understandable. It has the advantage of it doesn't have the price discovery problem that art may have, right? So like, why is a painting of a bull carrying a Bitcoin by Beeple worth millions of dollars, and why is the same painting by Lin Dai maybe worth $10, right? Like, so it's a little bit hard for the average consumer to really understand, why art is priced so differently. But the average consumer really understand the value of music. everybody can tell you John Lennon's Imagine is worth a lot more than Britney Spears, 6-track on her 4th album. So I think this opens an opportunity that, music as a collectible is potentially appealing to hundreds of millions of fans, right? They may not be crypto natives now, but we're all been, everybody in blockchain for the last 10 years has been, kind of working towards the moment of mass general market adoption, right? What is the application? What is the use case, the watershed moment that is going to bring not the technical savvy, not the early adopters, but the next 100 million non-crypto native people onto blockchain? And we think this is it. This project has the ability to basically hey, if we just make the UI UX easy enough, the experience of purchasing an NFT is far less scary and far less, seemingly, risky than, say, mortgage a house and triple leverage and buy, certain coin you may not heard of, right? So when I was little, I went and bought and was very excited. I got a Michael Jordan basketball card, not because I thought, this was going to go sell for tens of thousands of dollars, 30 years from now, but it's because I really loved Michael Jordan, right? So there's the same thing. I think a lot of fans would be very enthusiastic in kind of jumping in and purchase a digital collectible from their favorite artist, not really even for any idea of this is going to be worth something someday, but just because they love the artist, right? That's what we're going for. And in order to achieve that, we are really designing kind of our marketplace platform to be something that is really super easy to use. A 14-year-old fan should be able to sign up and purchase with a credit card in less than 3 minutes without having to understand how to open up, a crypto wallet, link it, keep track of your private key, all of that, right? So we do all of that for you in kind of the onboarding process. Your NFT purchase is in a company custody wallet, but then we push the self-governing part to post-purchase. You could then export if you understand how to open up a your own wallet and take custody of your key. You want to take control of your own NFT, you can do that, right? So that's a second operation. So that I think is because kind of our ethos is to be fan friendly, and our goal is really the existing crypto community will easily understand how to use our platform, but for the 100 million new users potentially, we make it super easy for them to have their first blockchain experience as simple and as friendly and enjoyable as possible.
Dude, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on the perspective of the music artists who are interested in using your platform and making NFTs. Because my experience so far is that a lot of them don't even necessarily know what types of possibilities there are even for them. And so I'm just curious to know what you're hearing on your end in terms of what music artists are most interested in releasing in the form of NFTs, what type, audio NFTs versus artwork of, you see some musicians releasing classic artwork from their albums, but it doesn't include any audio piece. There's some restrictions with, file sizes and types, of which I'm not super familiar with on Tezos, to be totally honest. So I'm interested in what music artists are like most interested in doing right this second, but like also as technology progresses, the industry evolves, like, how do you see this sort of taking shape, a year or two down the line when, things are really streamlined, technology is really refined, and you can, essentially, do whatever you want with the blockchain?
Yeah, a really great question. The other side of our ethos is it's artists first, right? So we know there's also significant technical barriers for artists to understand what is possible and how to leverage this technology. So a lot of our effort, we have the entire team dedicated to basically white glove service and onboard artists. So we basically have in-depth discussions with, we announced, about a dozen major artists, everybody from, Whitney Houston to the Doja Cat to, Quincy Jones, John Legend, Alesso, G-Eazy. So we have these, brainstorm sessions about what do they want to and what will get the fans excited. Artists are in general very creative people. That's just kind of, that's what they do. So if you kind of guide them on, what is possible, they all want to come up with like the best ideas to one up each other, right? So it's really exciting. So without spilling too much of the beans, I would say, in general, the artists are kind of on our platform, the canvas is much wider. Artists can drop art, artists can drop music, artists can drop videos on content, but artists can also drop in real world or digital experiences. So that's what the platform is built for. I think the challenges with other platforms, some of the things you talked about, the limitation on file size, we solved that, right? Like it's, those are not like major needs or, stumbling block for digital art or basketball trading cards, just because, those are very small files. For music, a lot of times, if you think about Doja Cat, you think of her as like a really prolific video artist, right? So there's a lot of kind of pieces where we think has value and people want to collect are actual, not only just music, but like the video that comes with the music. So and a lot of artists want to also, create kind of a unique version of certain things. So the file size problem we solved on our side. But, I would say the main reason why like a lot of other platforms or a lot of the early artists dropping on other platforms that doesn't really include music is it's kind of a rights issue. In general, like most blockchain companies don't know how to navigate that very complex world of music rights. So we, unfortunately, that's kind of one of the first things I did is, I called my co-founder and really good friend Josh James, who used to be kind of Warner Music, vice president on the live music side, and I talked about this project with him more than a year ago, and Josh said we need to call Adam. And Adam is our third co-founder. Adam is the president of Quincy Jones Production, is Quincy's partner in everything he does. So, Adam's first question was like, what is an NFT, right? So very quickly we kind of, he saw the vision, decided to partner with us. And Adam's team and Quincy's team has been working with us to navigate that very complex world of music rights. Very recently, even, I think earlier this week, there's a lawsuit filed in New York that Jay-Z is suing Damon Dash, his co-founder in Rockefeller Records, to stop him from releasing Jay-Z's first album as an NFT, Reasonable Doubt as an NFT without Jay-Z's permission, right? So it's very complex. You got to get everybody to kind of play nice and agree that this is like a net positive for all parties involved. And that's what we do, right? So our team also, go to the artists, go to the publishers, go to the record label, and educate really everyone that this is not, this is a technology that could really kind of propel the music industry to the next level, right? So, honestly, if you think about this, like music industry have not had a lot of innovation, right? It's just different ways of actually playing the same recorded music that, Edison figured out how to do like over 100 years ago. So this is kind of one of the biggest potential innovation coming to the music industry. And I'm glad in general, like, most of the music industry are taking a very positive attitude, because it could go really negative the other way. They learned their lesson on kind of not crush innovation, before it has an opportunity to blossom. And there are, there are platforms that like us that is really kind of advocating for artists, getting a fair share of this new revenue stream. But it also allows a lot of artists to just, the fundamentally this allows artists to directly connect and monetize their work now or in the future with their fan base, right? So the biggest winner in this world, in this kind of music for NFT space, if it develops and matures, is really the artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and being in the NFT space for a minute and then also working at Nifty Gateway, it's always seemed like there's been this very, very huge potential when it comes to NFTs and music, right? Earlier this year, I think you saw a lot of bigger names in the music space coming in and putting together NFT music, right? Using either collaborating with visual artists, digital artists, sometimes even being able to get their music and putting it together into these collections and pieces and things like that. But there's been this huge fundamental disconnect in expectations and performance. And it feels like at a very, very high level, a lot of teams are coming in and using NFTs as a tool to kind of generate revenue, right? And use this technology and adopt it. And that's all great. But what seems to really propel the successful musicians when they come in and they use NFTs and combine it with music and art and all that good stuff is how they embed themselves within the community, right? And I feel like you can have the best team and the best artist and put together what looks like the best NFT music, but in the end, it falls flat if there's no real connection with the community. And I'm just really curious how OneOf is going to learn from some of the past failings of the musicians that came in and had really big hyped drops that afterwards kind of left the collectors, left the fans feeling burned that they joined in something that has no real future, or they're not sure what is next when it comes to NFTs music and their favorite musicians.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is kind of the case where there's a little bit of a second mover advantage, right? There are great platforms like Nifty and great platforms like NBA Top Shot that really is kind of carve out a way, and there's a lot we can learn from earlier music artists experimenting. So I think first and foremost, a lot of the transactional dollar volume so far has happened on the higher end, right? So there's a collection of 6 pieces of item, and each of them can go for tens of thousands up to hundreds of thousands or even millions. And so that's really a limited subset of users. Right. So that, I think that was kind of the model very early on, is like, hey, can we get Whale Shark to come in and buy something, right? And for like $3 million. And that can only happen so many times, right? So the market just, there's not enough kind of whales always looking to buy every piece of kind of authentic or maybe not so authentic works of art from music artists. And the second part is kind of I would say fans probably don't want to collect visual art from music artists, if that makes sense. Like the reverse analogy I would give is like if I have a sound recording of Andy Warhol singing like "Happy Birthday," that's pretty cool. That can probably sell for like tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it's never going to be as valuable as his painting of the, let's say Campbell soup can, right? So like people want to collect not only music, but like the seminal music you have, right? Like, it's either like kind of unreleased tracks or the proven hits that you have. So combining those two things, what we are kind of basically going for, and also the other thing I think fans really want to collect is experiences and access. Right, so not less so memorabilia, but more like, hey, how do I actually get closer to my favorite artists? So to that front, we're doing a few things very differently. So we are basically always have a massive amount of lower tier NFT that is available for purchase as little as $5 or even $1. So that is targeted at the average fan as kind of a gateway or an introduction to NFTs. That's not scary. So we think that, and that's kind of uniquely because our platform is on top of Tezos and the minting cost is basically near zero. We are subsidizing the actual transaction cost for artists, but it's easily way under $1, right? So we can afford to do that. And artists don't have to worry about what is the minting fee on minting 10,000, 20,000, even 50,000, 100,000 kind of lower tier NFTs. And on the upper end, we really kind of interested in experiences, like, and not only one-time experiences, but what about lifetime experiences? What about, front row tickets to your favorite artist and, backstage meet and greets at every concert for as long as the artist is touring, right? Something like that, say I am a big fan of like Britney Spears, and Britney's not touring right now, unfortunately, but if she is, if I'm the winning bid of that OneOf NFT, I'm going to go to the next like 14 shows. At some point, I'm going to be like, okay, like I probably saw Britney enough times, right? So, but like, somebody else probably would enjoy this. I will put it on the secondary market for resale. So I think the whole continuity of a, kind of a lifetime experience is something like pretty new. I think what's most exciting about NFTs is kind of, there's a lot of work around metaverse, which is like super interesting. We're like definitely paying a lot of attention and want to partner with a company in those space. But what's more interesting to me is how kind of blockchain and the physical world interacts, right? So there is like some small examples of that. Well, I think there's that's where a lot of the value is. Like we're certainly a blockchain token representing ownership of something digital is easy. How do we do that well to represent kind of ownership or even experiences in the real world? That's what I'm really excited about.
Dude, it seems like you've obviously given this a lot of thought. I really, really like the idea of a very low entry point for fans, $1, $2 or something, just to sort of get people in the door. As someone who used to go to a lot of live music, I'm like absolutely the person who only leaves with like a $1 or $2 sticker or something afterwards. I'm not like a big spender, but I like to come away with something. And I think you're right, man. I think that hasn't really been like very well executed or done on a lot of other platforms. And a lot of it is just minting costs, the barrier to entry type of thing. Dude, I just curious, man. It's been fascinating. Matt and I have been in the NFT industry for a long time, and it's been really interesting to see big names from the outside, come in and take an approach at it. And just interested, man, is it possible to do any name dropping? Is there anyone who, any big names or artists or musicians who, you've seen come into the space that have really impressed you with their approach or with their thoughtfulness on some of the ways to utilize the technology that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's very, very early and certainly kind of tip of the iceberg on everything that's done, right? So certainly we're all kind of shocked and awed by Blouse Drop, right? That was the one that set the music industry on fire. And I presented this to senior music industry people kind of, like I said, more than a year ago, and my phone just lit up after, that weekend after Blouse dropped, after Grimes dropped. Those are kind of early pioneers. And, I think then we kind of went into a period, there was a little bit of money grab on some of the other collections. That was not well thought out. It was just kind of, everybody was trying to be kind of the first out. But there are other kind of really interesting ones. I thought what Steve Aoki did, what Calvin Harris did was really interesting. Especially, I think Calvin did some really low price NFTs that really gamified the experience. That was very refreshing to see a lot of thought put into that. So yeah, but I think it's super early. I would say majority of the kind of the tier one artists are all kind of quietly discussing this in the background, and we're in kind of most of those discussions. But I think everybody is trying to especially tier one artists are trying to be very thoughtful right now. That hey, how do I do this? That is something that is for the long term, not just a short term money grab, right? And there were definitely certain drops that was disappointing, right? So and it's really it's really not the artist's fault, because the artists are really being sold by some of the platforms or kind of consulting partners that is may not have their long-term interests at heart. This is something that hey, Quincy has spent he's 88 years old. He has probably spent 78 of those years advocating for artist rights. So this is something we don't want to do a money grab. Every collection is thoughtfully planned and have follow-ups, right? So it's about the longevity of artists connecting with their fans. And by the way, we don't only care about major artists, we care about every artist, right? So this is we have an emerging artist spotlight program. The whole idea of hey, you may be a cool artist that have some really creative work to share with the world. You don't get the promotion, or the algorithm is not in your favor on Spotify. We can spotlight you, right? Even if only 1,000 fans, true fans, that buys a $10 NFT in your first collection, that could be a meaningful revenue for an emerging artist. But imagine if that artist wins a Grammy 3 years from now, right? And what would do to the early collectors, right? So it's an empowerment platform for not only the artists, but also for the fans that really knows that artist first. How many times have we all said to our friends that I used to, I was one of the first one to see him in 19 whatever, I was at his DJ set, right? So I always tell the story, the Chainsmokers DJ'd a party at my rooftop for my assistant years ago. That was the story we all tell. So imagine you can prove it, right? If you're such a big fan so early, you could have had that artist first edition NFTs. So I think we're thinking about this as now NFT is going to how to make NFT part of the artist's career and repertoire in the long run, right? This is not a one-time thing. This is like, every time artist is dropping kind of an art album or going on tour or have a new project, NFT should be part of the plan, right? So
yeah. And I actually wanted to go back to what you touched on concerning like the in real life events and the actual shows, because I feel like the intersection of NFTs that fans have collected from their favorite musicians, and when the world starts to come back online, which it's showing early signs of actually happening, like being able to then go to shows and use those NFTs at the venues and events, I think that will start to really flip a lot of switches in fans' heads about like, wow, this is really special because I just collected this NFT and I'm carrying it on my phone with a wallet and I went to the event and then I got access to all this other extra stuff. That's going to be special. But I know there's a lot of tech involved in just making that experience seamless. Some early examples of NFTs as tickets at in real life venues have really fallen flat. The user experience is horrendous. The lines for NFT ticket verification, just using an example, NFT NYC last year, were terrible. It was just the worst experience. Right. But I'm wondering at your end and with Tezos in particular, like, is there any innovation at that intersection of NFTs in the real life ticking and all
that? You can't talk about music without talking about live experiences, right? It's such a huge component of how we enjoy music. So we definitely have, a lot of talks with a lot of the players in the ticketing space. And like you said, a lot of the early ideas are kind of, underwhelming, right? Like, replacing a QR code of a ticket, but it's tip of the iceberg. I would say like some of the really interesting longer term use cases, we're building a company, not like, that's not only going to be here for like a couple of years. I mean, we're going to build a company that's going to be here for decades or hundreds of years, right? So this is like we're looking at taking a very long-term view of this. I would say the most exciting thing that I've come across in the space is like there are venues being built right now that is really kind of leveraging the latest technology, right? Like for example, in Vegas, there's the MSG Sphere, which is a Death Star looking venue that will be the largest live music venue in all of Vegas. And it is just the latest. It's like the entire place is covered in curved, LEDs, and then like each of the, like depends on where you stand, it could like the different kind of sound and visual and like temperature could respond to you. There's certainly that like with kind of in-venue technology, how that respond to something you hold in your wallet or on your phone. There's a lot of potential, right? So it's kind of, now we're talking about blockchain software connecting with a piece of hardware and then like changing kind of your experience at a venue. So certainly none of these are kind of like a solution tomorrow, but I think there's in the next kind of 3 to 5 years, there's going to be like massive innovations in this space. What your NFT, how do you display your NFT and what your NFT can do is like the worst experience on any platform right now, right? So like I would say we're trying to do a little bit better, but it's nowhere near kind of in the physical world experience of like if I bought a $1 million painting, right, there is a lot I can do to show that off. Or, the digital version promises a lot more because it actually can go into multiple places. But like kind of the the display and interaction around the NFT has not been built out, because really, this technology really has only been, like slightly popular for 2 years, and only been, really kind of starting to get traction in the last like 3 months. But I think the attention and the resources and the energy towards this, which will mean like kind of, hey, like, 2 to 3 years from now, they'll be very exciting. And, if you hold on to some of the early first edition NFTs, there's a lot of things you can unlock in the future.
Dude, no doubt. We're like just getting started within the event space and the venue space specifically. Dude, as we sort of like get to a close here, one of the questions we love to ask our guests is just what other projects or innovations or things going on in the NFT world that have caught your eye. And if we were to be super invasive and actually like pop open your NFT wallet, is there anything cool lurking in there that you could share with us?
Yeah, both really great questions. We're looking at a lot of the different projects. Certainly I'm gonna there's a lot of projects that's now, because of I would say there's definitely a clean NFT movement. So I'm curious and always follow the projects that's not built on Ethereum. And watch the adoption there. I think so far the interesting thing is how if Dapper Labs has proven anything is that kind of the fans kind of care less about the underlying technology. They just care about kind of the ecosystem and the experience. So we're kind of Tezos, like we're definitely very excited for all the we're definitely very excited about all the activities that we're seeing on HIC and Nunk right now, right? So that is basically now propelling a large part of the transactions on Tezos, which at one point, mirrored about 23% of the daily transaction volume on Ethereum, which is kind of mind-boggling. And HIC and Nunk has, like, as a NFT transaction platform, had more transaction than any other Ethereum-based transaction platform. So in a 30-day period, it just doesn't have the dollar volume, right? It doesn't have the the $1 million kind of trades yet. So that's really exciting for us to follow. And my NFT collection, my favorite NFT so far is so I have the Genesis piece of an open edition from the artist Micah of Aku and the Moon God. It's this black kid astronaut walking down the hall. And it's just so cool. And Aku actually just got picked up as the first NFT to be picked up for a film option by one of the major studios. So that's a project that's like very well thought out. There's a whole storyline and right where this kind of fictitious character, but like a young black astronaut where he's going. So we're super, that's kind of personally that is just so cool. I really love the vision. So that's kind of my favorite kind of personal collection NFT so far, outside of the music world. So
that's awesome.
Love
man.
Micah Johnson. Yeah. Micah's
both big fans of Micah Johnson.
He's been killing it. Cool. Well, before we do wrap, I want to make sure that everyone listening is able to follow the latest updates of OneOf. So if you're able to share some of the social handles for OneOf and maybe some artists or anything that people should be looking out for to do exciting things on OneOf, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Clubhouse, every platform as OneOf NFT. So OneOf OneOf NFT. That's our social handle. And you can also go to our website, oneof.com, and sign up for our waitlist. So we're actually, the early people that sign up for waitlist, we're actually there's some announcement on some really cool stuff we're offering to the people that already signed up on our waiting list very soon. So you still have a chance to get some very unique opportunities if you sign up now. So that's it.
I love that waitlist love. You can never send too much love to folks that have already signed up for an early wait list.
Yeah, I think we decided to do kind of a surprise in July thing. So, we're not announcing like, hey, if you sign up and tell
Yeah.
4 friends, what are you gonna get? Like, we're just gonna be like, hey, you're cool, you get it. You're not expecting anything from us. That's kind of our attitude, right? Like we're trying to reward you for surprise in July fans. That's what artists do. So.
Signing up.
There you go. Well, Lin, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today about everything that you're building over at OneOf and all your insights into why you're building what you're building. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and just keep on building.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
Thanks, man. It was great.